You are 5 years old, lying in bed. The lights are off. Something is breathing in the closet. You know this can't be true. Your parents checked twice. There's nothing behind the coats but shoes and an old vacuum, but your heart is still pounding and no amount of logic is turning it off. That feeling has a very old name. Now look at what humans have drawn onto that feeling across every continent for thousands of years. China carved it into imperial thrones. Wales painted it onto a flag. Scandinavia carved it onto the front of longships. The Aztecs sculpted it into stone temples an ocean away. None of these civilizations ever met. None of them traded these stories over open water, and yet they all reached for the same monster. But the real answer for why is far stranger than coincidence. It isn't myth, it's memory. For most of human history, 3 predators hunted your ancestors, and only your ancestors, generation after generation, decided who got to survive long enough to have children. The snake struck without warning from the grass. The big cat dropped silently from a branch overhead. The raptor fell out of open sky before anyone even saw a shadow move. 3 different killers, 3 different angles of attack, one shared body of fear passed down through every surviving bloodline. Anthropologist David E. Jones spent years researching exactly this pattern. His conclusion was unsettling in its simplicity. The dragon is not one imagined creature. It's 3 real predators, welded together by instinct into a single silhouette. Scaled skin borrowed from the snake, claws and a snarl borrowed from the cat, wings and a diving strike borrowed from the sky. Your ancestors didn't invent a fantasy monster from nothing. Their minds compressed 3 ancient enemies into one shape, so that one warning could cover every direction danger might come from. Have you ever wondered why a snake behind thick zoo glass can still make your skin crawl? Researchers have tested this exact reflex. In controlled experiments, both children and adults spot a snake shape hidden in a cluttered image faster than they spot a flower, a frog, or a mushroom. Faster than almost any other object. Your visual system is quietly tuned for this one shape. Not because a movie taught you to flinch, because the humans who noticed the snake first, thousands of generations before you, were simply more likely to live long enough to pass that reflex forward. That fear never faded. It just kept getting inherited, and at some point, someone gave it a face. Here's where the story turns even stranger. Long before carbon dating or fossil lab, ancient people were already digging into hillsides and riverbanks, and they were finding bone, enormous bones, curved claws the size of a human hand, skulls with teeth like knives, half buried in cliffs where no living animal that size had ever been seen. Historian Adrienne Mayer has spent much of her career tracing this exact connection across the ancient world. She argues that fossil discoveries, mammoth skulls, dinosaur remains, giant extinct mammals were not some rare, hidden secret. They were found constantly by shepherds, farmers, and traders who had no concept of extinction, no framework for prehistoric time, no idea that millions of years even existed. So they built the only explanation available to them, a creature, enormous, scaled, buried in stone, because it had died there long ago. A fossilized skull didn't need much imagination to become a legend. It just needed a name and a storyteller. And once that name existed, it didn't need to travel by trade, route, or conquest. Sometimes the same fear, staring at the same kind of bones under the same night sky, simply arrives at the same answer twice. Carl Sagan noticed something similar from a different angle entirely. In his own writing on the evolution of human cognition, he pointed to something almost uncomfortable. The oldest, deepest structures of the human brain still carry the imprint of reptiles, both as distant ancestors and as ancient threats. He described it as a kind of buried memory, not a metaphor, but a residue, something coiled into you before language, before fire, before your species even had a word for itself. You didn't learn to fear the dragon. You were born partway there already. So why does the dragon guard treasure? Why is it always curled around gold, daring anyone to come closer? Think about what gold actually represented to early civilizations. Scarcity, power, a kind of survival that outlasted a single lifetime. It was the one resource worth protecting past all reason. So storytellers handed that job to the most feared creature their minds could produce. Nothing gets near what a dragon guards. Nothing dares to try. The dragon became a warning system with scales on it, a way for a parent to tell a child, stay away from that cliff, that cave, that stretch of dark water, without listing every real danger hiding there. Instead, they simply said, there is a dragon in that place. And the child believed it because some older part of that child already did. Different continents painted different colors onto the myth, different numbers of legs, different wings, or none at all. But the underlying shape stayed remarkably consistent. A long body, a mouthful of teeth, a threat that could strike from above and below in the same breath. The fear beneath it was never local to one culture. It was universal, built into a nervous system that evolved the same way on every continent, facing the same three predators, long before anyone had crossed an ocean to compare notes. That is the quiet truth hiding underneath every scale. The dragon was never a monster you invented out of nothing. It was a monster your body already remembered. Your imagination just finally gave it a shape. So think again about that 5-year-old heartbeat in the dark, staring at the closet door. You were never afraid of nothing. You were afraid of everything your ancestors needed you to fear, folded into a single shadow, waiting patiently behind the coats.